thinking of getting into the industry, or people who have their license and maybe they're struggling, what best practices advice would you have for them?
It's a job. You have to treat it like a job. You know, we teach this in our Thrive class. There's different types of agents.
Which everybody should take if you have not taken
that Thrive class is amazing.
And if you're not with our company, join our company so you can take that class. But it is that life-changing.
We are not paid for that endorsement, so
you can pay me.
I like whenever I teach it, when we teach that, Leland and I and Taylor, we all teach it together now. And the first time Leland taught it with me, he's like, how did you do this all by yourself? The content is so much, so fast, so heavy. But
stand back, boys. Watch Mama.
Yeah.
Had to put you guys through college. That's how I did that. So now you made me.
My mom is listening, so the same thing for you. I recognize that, Mom.
Okay, so in that class we teach there's 3 different types of agents, and there's the casual agent, part-time agent, the full-time agent, and it's really interesting if you remember when we're going through that part of it, the difference in hours. It's not as many as you would think to go from one level to the next. And one thing, because of the systems and the different departments that you have at your access
and learning scale,
and learning scale, how quickly you can change from those. But you have to decide, did you get in the business for the occasional relative or friend that's going to sell a house or want to buy a house and it just falls in your lap, and that's your casual
or you're
agent.
flipping or something,
or something. Are you going to be a part-time agent? You're only going to work so many hours a week, which that's the one when they say that, and they've got talent and ability, and you get a hold of them and show them this is how you can do it so easily in this amount of time with the resources that we have. And then there's a full-time agent that will work 70, some of them 8 years. They get like me. I remember thinking when my boys were growing up, how they would play Nintendo, and I'm like, they're just so addicted to it. And then I'd go sit down the MLS and go through all of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't set. They can't set Nintendo down. I can't set real estate down. So it's learn your market first.
Okay.
Get in and learn what subdivisions are you going to be selling in. Learn
all of them. No, I'm just kidding.
But in the beginning, the ones that you're most likely going to be working in, and learn everything about them. Now,
is that based on your center of influence that you would most likely, the area that you would, because you're a center of influence, or is it aspirational? In other words, you pick an area that you go, I want to dominate that area.
There's 2 ways to do real estate. It's how much can you throw against a wall and see what sticks, or law of attraction. We're law of attraction. So with that said, what you're saying is figure out your areas, your sphere of influence that's around you. Let us help you, show you how to build that sphere of influence. You've already got it, you just don't know. And let us help you build that sphere of influence and show you how to take that and have that work for you, of the people who already love you.
And everyone has that sphere of influence. Whether you're the stay-at-home mom, you may have all your PTA friends and your, play date friends, or if you're in church, or you went to a certain university, or whatever that may be, your book club. Everyone has a sphere of influence, and building that is not so hard once you know where your sphere of influence is.
Exactly. Right. And so, we help build that. There's so many little things that we teach in the classes of, this is a simple way to add on.
Well, and sitting in open houses of other agents in that area that you want to be a part of.
Right.
I mean, that's really what I think changed our business the most, was whenever you kept saying, that's the area you guys really want to be in. So go sit in those open houses. And that's also one of the great things about being a part of a company this size, is those are available for you. And the listing agent is thrilled to have somebody that wants to be there and sell the house, be there, but then it's an opportunity for you to be.
There's so many agents are just hopping from open house to open house. And one of the things I know both of you have done coaching with me, that we've learned there's a way to do open houses and make them work for you. And it's not just skipping from here to here to here. And, we have a whole coaching thing on that. I remember when I did coaching with John and Jack, and I have every agent that does coaching with me bring a notebook and note. I mean, you guys would be writing and writing and writing. I said, just raise your hand when I've reached maximum saturation.
When the eyes glaze over.
John would be writing and his hand would be in the air. But it's just, you
So
know,
true.
yeah, that goes back to that outlier thing. I can talk it all, I
But
know
what was
it so
cool
well.
was
I could
then we would go and we would really do what you said.
uh-huh.
We'd broken into pieces that were digestible, and we would do that and then come back
Right.
instead of trying to give me every. I love to say, tell me how to be you. I'm like, first of all, aim higher. But it's always funny because I'm like, I couldn't possibly. It'd be like feeding you from a water hose. Like you gotta. a fire. You gotta take it bit by bit, which is what you do.
And then when you came, you said, "Okay, so John and Jack told me no matter what you say, I have to do it, even if it sounds crazy. Even if it sounds crazy, it'll work."
Isn't that the best endorsement? Really, though.
And
Really,
speaking of,
we meant that.
Like you told us about the ninja class.
Mm-hmm.
I keep my ninja notebook and take it with me everywhere, because if you write it down, you will accomplish it.
Right.
And keeping your list at a certain number. But you said, Cindy, I'm bringing this in. You need to take this ninja class. I mean, that was a year and a half ago, and I still live by the principles. If you say do it, I'm doing it.
Well, it's, I'm going to keep that in mind.
I'm not saying that out loud. I love you, but I'm not saying that out loud.
So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun as a family. We have a lot of fun as a company.
Oh my gosh! And if you're not having fun, don't be in this business.
Yeah,
because it is so many hours, and it is so much. And
it's stressful.
Oh, it's funny here because in Midtown, it is just we're constantly giving each other a hard time and having fun, because it's like you spend more time with them than you do anybody. It's like you need to have fun, and you need to keep it, because you get into a lot of serious situations and you have to deal with a lot of stress. So I think it's really important.
Him and Leland really give each other a hard time. I was here one day and there was a new agent Leland had come down to meet, and Leland's talking to the new agent, and Jack walks by and goes, "Whatever." And then I was watching that, and I got like, "Hey, you guys got to stop this."
No, they need to know if you're coming aboard, you got to be ready to have some fun, because we are not going to be serious.
He goes, "Don't worry." He said, I said to the agent, he's going to say something when he walks up, and it's going to be to give me a hard time. So he said I had to prepare.
And then I said, "You are going to love it here. You're going to absolutely love it. Come here for everything except him."
Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
So to bring us back with new agents, I want to cover at least 5 things.
Okay.
So you
to
said,
learn your market.
Yeah, figure out
what your sphere of influence is, and then figure out.
And also, if
Yeah,
you
what-
want to be full-time, part-time,
part-time. Or just-
then know your market and your sphere of influence. What next?
Then you need to know what you need to know. So what they teach you to get your license is not what you need to be successful in real estate. So you don't know what you don't know. So
Which is so true.
right. And we've got 52 classes running.
I'm still figuring
continually.
that out, honestly.
Yeah.
There's something new every day, almost every day.
Absolutely, which I love about it. Yeah.
Right. So get in and learn, safety rules. I mean, with open houses, those types, open houses, safety rules, but also, I remember you took a class somewhere else, and then you came to our post license and you called me and went, I
don't know any of this.
You guys are talking a different language than what I learned in my class for, to get my license. I said, absolutely. And so, you have to learn.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they just taught us to pass the test.
That's what
I think
did.
is the bottom line. Then I get into all those classes and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much here.
Yeah,
You know?
and that wasn't our class. Our
It was not a
pre-license
Chinowth class.
teaches you a lot of what you're going to learn in post-license. So we kind of go a little bit over.
So that you can hit the ground running.
Right, so you can hit
Yeah.
the
I'm
ground
like,
running. Right.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
Yeah.
And on a side note with that, when you get your license, and now we require this at Chinowth, we did not when I first got my license. I was so busy trying to build my business that I didn't take my post 45 class until like the last month I could take it, because you have to take it in the first year.
You put off your continuing education?
I know, right?
The last minute? Nobody does that, Cindy. Everybody does that.
Literally, they had no classes scheduled in December, and Becky was our trainer, and Becky had to schedule classes just so I could finish my post 45.
Look at you, princess. Wow.
And I know, right? Oh, I'm sure she's still cussing my name, but so sure she doesn't cuss. But literally, I'm in the post 45, and I'm like, I should have taken this in January. Why did I put this off? Because there was so much I was just trying to learn from you, or ask agents like Jack, and take those classes immediately, because you will learn so much. They're required by law, but they're required for a reason.
And I think it's really good to take classes at our company because of the fact that it is our culture.
Yes.
And so like the way that we present ourselves as a united front and what our values are, how we practice business, I think it's good that it's sort of a more controlled environment of, if you're going to be working under this brokerage, this is how we handle things and how we do things. Exactly. Which is why I love the new construction certification, because it's like, you know, I grew up, my dad was a builder, so I know a lot of the things naturally just from osmosis, not because, I mean, it's funny because I was like, I am never doing anything has to do with houses ever. You know, here I am. But it's like, I think it just teaches people, whenever someone asks a question, they may not know the answer from the question, but they know what the question was.
Right.
You know, they understand the language of what kind of board are they using, what kind of insulation are they using. And that's through our company that we really try to give a professional education that really matters to people.
Right. I had a few builders that contacted me early on of the company as we were growing and going, okay, so when I was working with you, I knew I was going to have someone in there every weekend that knew construction inside and out. And you or whoever was working for you, I knew you would have trained them, but you're getting to a size now, and every once in a while we're noticing. So that's why we did that's why we got so many of our agents certified.
Yeah,
we're going to do that again too coming up. Just
so
everyone knows, like, we're going to do.
The other thing I would say is get out of bed, get dressed in business attire, you know, and go to the office. There are so many companies now
the magic of the office.
Yes, there are so many companies that we're in the cloud, you know, and you know, they've got these little, what are they, cartoon characters at your broker, you know. I mean, don't do that. Get to where you've got actual people that you can sit down and tell your life experiences. When I did work for other companies, the day that I would interview with them, they'd say, how do you work? What do you want to do? And I'd say, I want a desk by the top producing agent. You know, you can't learn more than
smart.
And then we put in these islands of, I was counting this morning, there's 7 computers in a row out here.
And it's amazing how often you can't find a computer because they're all used.
Yeah. So our offices are busy, and there's a lot of producing agents in them, and they're at those computers and they're all talking, and you can pick up so much knowledge.
I've sold houses that way. I've gotten some of the best information that way. It's just invaluable.
And as a top producer, if I see someone new who's there every day, I do whatever I can to help them, because they really are trying to make this a profession for themselves. They're showing up, they're really doing it. And I know at the beginning that can be so hard to do that every day.
That's how you won the leadership award. Won the leadership award. So our biggest award in our company is not a volume award. It's not how many houses did you sell or how much money did you make. It's how many lives did you impact. And it's voted on by the peers. There's the owners and
not managers.
And the managers, staff. No one votes for it. It's just your peers. And every year we give away the leadership award. It's our standing ovation, and everybody cheers and claps. And the person that wins it every year is someone that has done a lot to help a lot of other people in the company, other agents. And you know, it's
very meaningful. And really, very meaningful.
I think just you have to decide. You know, from the very beginning, you have to decide: do I just want to work numbers, or do I want a lifestyle as I'm building my business?
Well, that's why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for much else other than we really, both of us are natural mentor people, and we enjoy that. And so it's like, this is really an opportunity for us to sort of mentor more people and help more people and get information out there and share with a little bit of knowledge that we have. And then also it's forcing us to kind of get more educated and push our own boundaries, which is
because we talk all the time. It's like, what'd you think about this hot topic? We need to talk about that.
I was laughing today. I was telling Sheryl that I was walking with Fortune this morning, and I kept getting the dings from you for Instagram posts, and I was like, she's up early.
Sorry, guys.
No worries.
I kept hearing all the dings going, who is dinging? That's me.
Here's what I love about Sheryl. That just went off, and she took the phone and to turn it silent, but she checked who was calling.
Is it on fire? Yeah. Okay, so we talked about know what kind of agent you want to be, know your market, know what you need to know through training. What was the last one we just talked about?
Get up, get dressed.
Get up and get dressed. So one is
which I think is the most underrated, honestly. That one, I mean, everyone knows it in Midtown. I'm almost always here. Like that is, and I didn't even have a desk before I came to Chinowth
Mhm.
at my old company. I
Mhm.
didn't want to be. So it's like that has been the biggest game changer. Plus, it's just I know my day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or if somebody calls and wants to see a house and I'm standing in my laundry room in sweats, I don't have to go, do I have time to rush and get ready? Like I am ready to go at all times.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. So
And I never miss a sales meeting except for this. We're in the middle of Parade of Homes.
Never say
and
never.
Never say never. And I'd finally hit a wall, but I felt so left out yesterday and today because I didn't know all the stuff that we talked about. So
It was a fun meeting. We had so
It was
much
a good
cheering and clapping, and I had a lot of calls and texts and emails of how motivated they were when they left and ready to go. But I would say the fifth thing is you either have to decide whether you believe there's a life after this or not. And if you believe that there is a life after this, then every person that you, I'm so sorry. I thought I had it off.
and still checking to see who it is.
but she didn't answer it, so that's good.
Okay. All right.
But she's texting her back. So.
Okay, thank you. All right. So if you believe there is a life after this, then every client, every person that you meet, you want to treat them as if though you're not building a relationship for just now, you're building an eternity relationship.
Mm.
And if you bump
Very
into them
nice.
in the next life, you want them to come
You
up
can
and
look
say,
at them
that
with a
was
straight
good.
face.
That was a good experience I had with you. You know,
Yeah.
not, you know, oh my gosh.
So basically, be a good person.
Be
a thoughtful, caring, good person,
right.
and take care of yourself. I mean,
Right.
and your clients. But yeah,
Right.
take.
I could give you 20 more if you're a new agent, but I really think if you can start with who you are,
Again,
what kind
digest those 5, and then
Yeah.
and
And
we'll
then-
come back. Part
Mhm.
13 of our interview with
Exactly.
you.
We're gonna have to keep
So
calling Cheryl back.
let's go back now to the sales meeting and what we were discussing a little
And
bit.
hot
just
topics.
Because it is the hot topic. And, I want to preface this by saying that anything we talk about with the NAR settlement right now is just kind of theory
Mhm.
because we don't really know exactly how everything is going to settle out. One of the things that Cindy and I have really been discussing back and forth is how much as they're implementing everything, they're finding flaws and they're
Right.
finding issues and they're finding that it doesn't really add up in the best interest of the public. And so how is this going to pan out?
Right.
So in your opinion, not specifically what's going to happen or not happen, but what do you think as agents, as professionals in our business, we should be thinking about? How should we be approaching this change that's coming?
Well, like I said, I saw the beginning of when everyone freaked out over Zillow and when everyone freaked out when franchises came into and it's really, real estate doesn't change. Sellers want most of our phone calls, we were even surprised as a company, most of our phone calls after it was on the front page of the New York Times and Wall Street Journal that this lawsuit had happened, our calls were sellers going, how do I make sure that all the buyers out there know that I'm going to pay the buy side? Because I want as many, people to come in. I want as many buyers in my house as I possibly can get, and which we quickly started teaching our agents maximum exposure is maximum equity.
Mhm.
And if you don't have it where you're paying it, they're going to ask you to take it off your price anyway. And so it's a matter of you having your sign in the yard. Your top producing agents are going to most likely tell their clientele, their sellers, the best thing you can do is pay the other side. You're already 73% of the buyers out there look at new construction when they look at resale. So when you're competing as a resale house against a new construction house, you already need to have your house in as peak condition as you can. And the builders are posting and blasting on social media and emails out to all the agents. They'll pay 4%. So if you're in competition already with houses that are at their peak, and then you've got what we call professional sellers, builders are professional sellers. If they're paying the commissions, shouldn't the resales be paying the buyer side commission? And it all comes down to bottom line.
Mhm.
And as the inventory is growing and days on market grow, I think the commission part's going to become less and less of an issue. But I think you're going to see your top producing agents telling their sellers, I've got how many listings do I have? I can't run from house to house to house to house to show everything. I need the network. I need the industry and I need the network. And they need to know when they see my sign in their yard, they're going to get paid and they're not going to have to fight for it. And that's the agents we want showing your house are the ones that look at Cindy's sign and says, I'm going to get paid and Cindy's a good agent and I don't have to worry about that. And I just think we've kind of forgotten the basics, and I've seen this happen every time something new comes into the industry. Everybody swirls around and forgets it's still the bottom line and how you do business.
I think also we sort of, in some ways, we're all putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, because it's like we forget too that it isn't just about selling a house. Like everybody just wants to, which drives me crazy when you watch the real estate shows, because they got it sold and then potential closing, blah, blah, blah. They don't go into what actually happens after the sale to get it to close. So when you have somebody on the buy side that's helping the buyer navigate that, it's unbelievable how many times that buyer broker saves that deal from collapsing between sale and closing. If you have an unrepresented buyer with very little knowledge, looking at inspection reports, evaluating closing issues, doing all those things, the panic that can ensue with that person without the knowledge, which would be easy to happen, because it's like I tell that reverse polarity story. In my first deal, there was like a lot of reverse polarity and I thought the deal was blowing. It was going to be over. We weren't going to eat that month. And then it's like, all they have to do is take the wires and switch them on the outlets in a couple of places and it was fixed. It's like, but as a buyer, you're so panicked.
Everything sounds like
a big deal. So I think I just think there's so many things about this that we have to remember. We are needed as agents, and as the public, you need somebody on your side. You need somebody helping you through it, because you don't do this every day.
And as a buyer, if you don't have representation, you're actually going against a professional negotiator. This is what we do every day. That listing agent
That's a really good
is
point,
a professional
Cindy,
negotiator. And so you don't do this every day. And
whose fiduciary responsibility is to, if they're representing the seller, then their responsibility is to
the
that
seller.
Right?
Yep.
Legally,
So if that's the case, you just need to remember that we are bound to be fair to both sides. But if you've been hired by the seller, your job is to get the highest price for that house for the seller.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to say, is that the state of Oklahoma is a transactional state. We don't have buyer and seller.
But does this upend that? Will this upend that, or will it stay the same?
I think unless Oklahoma law changes, it will stay the same. And the business of real estate is real estate. So your first thing is the inventory of homes and lots and land, and that's, we have to keep in mind that is real estate. It's the actual real estate. So if you're going to be a buyer broker, and I understand there's a lot of agents that may want to do that, you have to learn. You have to know so much about how, if you're not a list side and you don't have listings, and you're not working with those sellers, understanding both sides is a little bit more tricky. There used to be a company out there that they would have teams, and on the teams they would have a buyer's agents and they would have seller agents, and we would call those hobbled horse theory. They can only do the buy side, they can only do the sell side, so they've only been trained in that area and they only speak that language. So I think it's really important, if you're going to be successful in your career and you want to understand all aspects of it, and to get an agent,
see the whole organic.
Get an agent does both sides, so they understand all of it, and they understand,
listings to live. If you're a new agent out there, listings to live, but you do need to know both sides.
And we at Oklahoma, I've been through it all. We were where you had to be only buy side, and you only had to be, and the different things, if you knew the person at all, if the whole test was if you could go to their house and get a drink out of the refrigerator without asking. All these bizarre things. And this has been the best, the transaction, and it has lasted a long time, when it's like we are representing really the deal, and we don't disclose what we shouldn't disclose on either side. So it's kind of sad, because in some ways we finally have kind of gotten it where it's working. So hopefully that stays intact, because I think it does. It does really work.
I think it will. A lot of
Just like you were saying, be a good person. I mean, it's like, I'm not
Be
going to give
honest,
away your
integrity.
information, and I'm not going to give,
professional
integrity.
knowledge, integrity. We post that on underneath our.
And don't let
name
anyone
everywhere.
tell you our business does not have integrity. It gets really old and tiring to be made into the victim. I mean, to be made into the villain, because I think that we really are. And I mean, we are a business that keeps people from making the worst mistake of their life.
But
Or the biggest thing they're ever going to probably buy or sell.
Right, their biggest investment. But that is exactly how Europe is. So when I flew to Portugal and met with, the Real Trends and Steve and all the people owners from Europe, that's what it is there. It is so cutthroat, and commissions are they're fighting over every penny, that they are the villains. A lot of them are villains in that industry, and
Because
recognizes
they swoop in at the last minute
They-
with some.
Yes, and I sold I'll never forget, I sold the guy that came from England to put together the British Petroleum and Amoco deal. And so, had NDA signed and couldn't tell anyone he was here and everything. So I've sold them a house. And then when they called me a few years later and had me come out to list their house, they said, but we have a condition. When I got there, they said, we're going back to England, and we want you, part of it is you have to take the commission and fly to England and visit us. And I said, okay. And I did. And then when I got there, they said, okay, there's one specific thing. We don't want you to tell anybody that you're in real estate. Because over here,
That's bad.
that's bad. And so I'm like, you're kidding me. And they go, yeah. So you just tell them that you're our friend from America.
Yeah. I love it. I saw a thing today on the CNBC that was so interesting, that they were talking about the shift in America compared to Europe over the years, and how it used to be we had a lot of pensions. And so people really were they relied on their pension like they do in Europe for retirement more. But now we've moved away from that with companies. You don't have a lot of companies or things you have a pension with. And so now real estate investment and your stock portfolios are much more important to people because of that. So it is your nest egg. And so all that being said, like, I love what we do for people. And just even, again, going back, watching my parents, build all of those homes through the years, and slowly building that, and what that has done for my mother in her, years, that she can live so comfortably and be not worried. I mean, it's very important what we do.
It beats the stock market. It beats the stock market. And unless you get on the ground floor of Walmart or.
Right.
Or, I mean, that's
like that.
probably the most balanced portfolio that we can all have, is owning a home and having some stocks, because your home is going to hopefully be a little more, I just think it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting time that everybody seems to know everything about our business who don't ever do anything in our business. Like, that's what I get. Like, I think we're all frustrated, and I think all of our, my friend jokingly calls it hydrenalin. It's like everybody's adrenaline is up, because it's like, but it's like when you're being told, when you have not had a day off, it's literally, there's times when you don't have days off for 3 months because you're working Saturday, Sunday, open houses.
I'm there right now.
Yeah. And then people are saying, well, you all just make so much money, you don't do anything. It's like, yeah. So I think that's where a lot of it.
We went through COVID, and so many people were, they were selling houses so fast, and they were posting that, look how much money I made in this amount of time. And that kind of hurt us as an industry.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
in that way. Yeah.
But also remember, we don't get paid until the house sells. Like, we are spending money, we are working till the house closes. Yes. So sometimes people forget that too.
Yeah. But the very most important thing that I think about real estate is, if you're an agent and you really, I don't know what other industry, other than if you are a doctor that's saving lives. I don't know anything else that's more important than what we do for a living, because we are literally putting people on their foundations that they're going to build their lives on.
And if you're going to be in this business, you should understand that and shoulder that responsibility with the importance that it comes with, because we do have that responsibility. It's also like, when I was in design, I had a lot of doctors that were, and it was funny because one time, one of my neurosurgeon clients, we were doing something, and I said, well, it's not like I'm doing what you do where I'm saving lives. And he said, you are really undervaluing yourself, because you're helping me have a home that makes me go home after a bad day and decompress and get ready for the next day whenever I've got somebody else on my table, that if I carry the bad from the day before, I'm not going to make the right decisions for that person that day. So I think that it is, we're supplying haven. And you bring your kids home, people pass away,
Memories,
and I mean, like all those
Get
things,
married or
you get
whatever it
married.
is. Yeah.
The senior pictures on the stairwell. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not just, your stocks don't do that for you.
Right.
I mean, I love my stocks. I'm not saying I don't, but I mean, I don't often take
Mhm.
pictures on their stairwell of my stocks. Like I think it's such an interesting emotional and financial thing. So
So for agents out there who are going, oh my gosh, so many things are going to change August 17th. Let's flip the script and give them some maybe verbiage that they can use when they're talking with a seller.
Well, I think we covered a lot of that, and that you're already competing against new construction. That take the commission part off. You've got it included in your price. It's always been in your price before. Let's not make it where it becomes added back on. The buyer wants to add it on. Now may have an appraisal issue. I mean, I just think sellers are going to know and wise enough, and I think our agents in particular are going to be able to explain that. On the buy side, no one can expect anyone to show them 20, 30 houses and not get paid.
Right.
So up front, they're going to have to sign buyer broker agreements that says they get paid. Either the buyer pays them, and they can't negotiate up. So it's going to have to be where the buyer understands if the seller doesn't pay it, that they have to figure out how to roll it into their mortgage, or they may not get that particular house, or
So
that they get.
which
dive a little
we've
deeper into
actually
this.
always done. I think for the public listening, we've actually done that. It's the buyer always supplied the money.
Mhm.
The buyer always brought the money from their bank or from cash to pay for the property, which paid the commissions, which was then put into the mortgage essentially, or came out of that. So we're basically it seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like what we're really doing is sort of the same thing. We're just calling it different who's doing what.
And that's
But it's the same as it's always been. We're
Right.
just defining it in a different way. And sometimes we're going to be putting a little bit more pressure on the buyer to bring money.
I think it's the pendulum this is class action lawsuit. I mean, class action lawsuits jump from industry. The lawyers jump from industry to
And then
industry
they go.
to industry, and then
Bye-bye.
they're gone. And then you're left as an industry with picking up the pieces and how we're going to run our businesses now. And I don't think you're going to see all that much change. I think the pendulum has swung too far one way right now. And now we're seeing lawsuits in other states. All of those lawsuits happened in Missouri, in one particular location. And the class action lawyers jumped on that, and that, hey, we can win here. And this thing, what my close friend who's a judge tells me, they forum shopped it. And so I think now the pendulum is going to start swinging the other way, where they're going to have to put things in. I don't even know that they're saying August, but I don't know how they're going to get that done, because there's still so many things.
Right.
They just settled last week that VA buyers can pay. I mean, things are changing day by day. And a lot of our friends that own large real estate companies across the nation aren't even talking a lot about it. They're telling their agents, wait till we get, to the middle or end of July.
And the one thing too is the big change is that they're saying that we have to take the commission off the MLS, but the DOJ was the one who told us we had to put the commission on the MLS
for transparency.
So now, but they wouldn't allow that letter from the DOJ to be brought into that case.
Right.
And so now we're all paying this huge price for following the orders of the DOJ to put the commissions on the MLS, and being told that by doing that, we have done something wrong.
Like collusion. They're calling it
collusion. I don't
And
understand that.
actually, it
That's
was more
crazy.
transparent. And whenever they said you had to put it on the MLS, all the real estate owners were upset then. So, and then when they say you have to take it off, then they're all upset again. So it really is, we're going backwards. It's less transparency.
And I think that's what the realtors are upset about right now.
Right.
We want
It is-
more
We
transparency.
want it to be transparent to the public. We want things to be right for people that we're representing and for ourselves. So it's not like, I think people have this idea that we're all have our hair on fire because we think that we're not going to get paid. Well, Yeah, to a degree, I think that is true. There's some like fear of what's happening, but the reality is what we're upset about is that we can make some changes that will be better, and we're good with that. But to throw everything out and just try to rebuild it as we go is not a good plan.
And to say
It's
we
just
have no
not.
value.
Right.
I mean, wow.
You know, when I was in design, the internet sort of changed, and then HGTV, people would go, I saw an HGTV and they did a whole room for $13. So can you do a whole room for $13? And I was like, no, I cannot do a whole room for $13. And so, you know, all of that sort of changed everybody. And then everybody kind of went to this phase where they were going to do everything. Remember all that do it yourself? And that's actually how we met.
That's right. That's
Trading
right.
spaces. So I think all of that kind of happened. And then a lot of people, including myself, were like, you know what? I don't want to be in this business this way. And I actually wanted to be in real estate. So that's how it all kind of transitioned for me. But I'll tell you what, the designers are back and they're making more money than they did before because people are like, I really need you. Like I learned I couldn't do all that by myself. So I think we're kind of in a similar thing where people have watched, and I think it's
not a book
the
or a
TV
bottle of
shows
wine.
too of look at how much money we made and
So
all we
easy,
did
it's
is have a
not
party.
good. Yeah, I was looking at the news for Hamlin. I'm like, oh my gosh. But you know, they're not buying a book or a bottle of wine that you can return, or you know, you don't like the wine, go buy another bottle. It's not like that. You know, this is something that's got big consequences if it's not done properly. And like we said earlier, it changes every day. So you have to have someone that's in the know, that's participating in it, and reading on it, and studying it every day as your representation.
But that's even for me,
smart.
why I want to be in a company that's structured the way that our company is structured, compared to being in another company that relies heavily on the cloud and all of that. Because to me, that's sort of saying, oh yeah, that can be, people can do it.
Yeah.
If they can just go do it. But it's like, I remember whenever we started doing the tours, the video tours, and everybody from California was buying houses sight unseen on the video tours, and then coming here to close and being so upset because the house was nothing like
on the video.
And so it's kind of the same thing. It's just, we have tried it in so many ways. We have tried it and tried it and tried it. It just doesn't work. It's a tactical thing that you have to see, you have to feel, you have to be there, and you need somebody who's going to do that and help you with that. So I think just out of essentials, it's going to be, you know, we all just have to hang in there because it's going to wash out because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Yeah. And when I talk to our attorneys and when I talk to the national boards that I sit on, everyone's like 6 months after August, that's when it's going to start settling back into what we were, because it's not real estate itself doesn't really change, and no one's going to work for free. They're just not going to work for free.
So, and if you want to know more about Jack and my feelings on all this, you can listen to last week's podcast. But something I want to ask you about, Sheryl. So, and we touched on it a minute ago. So as a buyer now, what they're saying, and we now required at Chinowth, it will be required in Oklahoma shortly. The buyer has to sign a buyer brokerage agreement that this brokerage is representing me. And what are the options on that form?
They have,
at least as of today.
You know, there's options on there to be represented by the agent, you know, as the buyer. It's more about how your agent gets paid if it's a buyer's agent on the form more than anything else. It's is the seller paying it? Is the buyer paying it? Is it how is that going to be negotiated and handled? The thing that, you know, buyers are going to need to be more cautious before they actually sign that form, because
that's what I want to talk about.
Like what we're seeing with Zillow right now, they're sending out a form, and I think the DOJ is looking at it, trying to decide if it's legal or not. I'd be surprised if they come back with, yeah, this is okay to do this. Here's a Zillow lead that Zillow's never been in the house or know anything about the house, and you're going to click on this, and you're going to get a random agent out of Zillow that's, could be from a real estate company, but you don't know who's going to show up. And they think it's the list agent, and it's not the list agent. And you have to sign before that you can see that house, that for the next 7 days, any house you buy, you're tied to Zillow.
And tied to that
They
agent,
get
whether
tied
you
to
like
that
them or
agent,
not.
whether you like them or not.
Who may or may not have ever sold a house,
Right.
may or may not even know the
Never
area
been
you're
in the
looking at,
house.
or looking, it could be somebody from another neighboring city who's
Oklahoma
coming over
City,
to here,
over to
and then
Tulsa.
they come over here, and then they have no knowledge of the market, and you're stuck for 7 days with them.
Right. And real estate.
We should be telling our buyers that about Zillow right now. Like, just
Be
warning
careful.
them to be careful.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's really a big deal.
But
Yeah.
cities
Thanks, Zillow.
cities have personalities, subdivisions have personalities, school districts have personalities.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to have an agent that understands the areas that you want to be in, and not just the personalities of the subdivisions, and we teach a class on the disc personality and how that relates to real estate, and what types of personalities, like what type of subdivisions and what type of homes, and how to be able to market your listings to pull those types of personalities to those types of personalities of the subdivisions and the houses and it's.
Or somebody says, where should I go to the dry cleaners?
Yes.
Where should I mean, like, I can't tell you how many times I make lists for people like, well, you want to go there, but don't go on Thursday because it's a nutcase on Thursday, but go on Friday. I mean, that's the part of the beauty of what we do. And
As
that could be
professionals.
lost. Yeah.
And a great analogy that I had, because I joked earlier, I want to sell everywhere. But if you made perfume, you are not going to try to market your perfume to every single person with skin.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're going to come up with a very certain scent and have a very certain, type of client that you're going after. So same thing here. If you're doing luxury, or you live on the south side of Tulsa or Midtown, you kind of figure out where your people are and where you can best serve them. Don't you think?
It's personal. Real estate,
What's
of all
meant
the
for you
industries
comes
out
to
there,
you.
real
Mhm.
estate is very personal.
Amen.
Mhm.
Yeah. On both sides. Absolutely. But I think the biggest thing right now that we're dealing with and as the public, be very careful what you're signing.
Yes.
Read what you're agreeing to. Don't just this is not really a form that you can just initial and sign and be like, okay, I'm good, because you could be dedicating yourself to that person for up to a year. I mean,
Oklahoma just made a change in our law.
It is a legally binding contract.
You could be stuck with that agent for a year, and a year is a very long time when you're looking at houses.
Yeah. And so when you're signing it as the public, don't just take it as, oh, well, it doesn't have any meaning. Because I think a lot of people are going to present it that way. I think a lot of agents are going to say, it's just a formality, sign here. But it's like, you're agreeing to pay and you're agreeing to stay with that person for a certain amount of time.
It's kind of like the lawsuit said, okay, so the buyer has to pay, we're going to try to divide this out. And for some reason, they think that this is going to bring the cost of housing down, which it's not.
It's not.
No seller is going to take less because for their home than what it's worth, because the buyer is going to pay the buyer side commission.
Not to mention how we're going to go backward on appraisals, because that was included in those before. Yeah.
Yep.
It's very complicated.
Right. I just went into a cul-de-sac. Where were we before that? I know what I was going to say. So they're saying that, the buyer has to pay the buyer side, but I don't think they thought it all the way through to, before we can walk into a house, that you have to sign the buyer broker agreement, and now you're trapped into with this agreement. I don't think they thought that all the way through before you could go from house to house. And if you didn't have anything signed, you could, until, what I always tell agents, open houses those are where sellers go
And
before they put their houses on the market to find their realtor.
Yeah.
And make sure you're prepared for that and you've got everything there.
And now a lot of buyers are going to be going to open houses because
trying to find the same thing. Their buyers are going to be going to open houses to find out, who do I want to represent me as a buyer? Because now you have to do a whole, as a buyer, which they were doing before, but at a whole nother level, you've got to do the research of who do you actually want representing you as your buyer's
And don't take
agent.
that lightly.
Right.
And if you're the agent, be very, very transparent what you are asking them to sign and agree to, so they know exactly when they sign that.
Right. You
how
do
the
not-
time limit
and-
is.
And they
what-
don't have
flipping
to
the-
sign
how
them at the
limited.
open houses.
Yeah,
So don't
that's
walk
huge.
into an open house and have someone tell you before you can look at the
I
house.
also
you have
heard
to
that if
sign
you're
up
the
or
listing
something. You don't.
agent and someone just wants to come to see the house, that you're not required if they're just
On the
there
first house.
on the first house.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you take them anywhere else, but if
Yeah.
it's your
Likely
listing,
to change. I mean, that
Yeah.
see, that wasn't that way before. And open houses, it was had to sign before they went on open houses. I mean, things are changing.
Mhm.
They're going to change back to where we're at over time. It's just going to be, is it going to be 6 months or a year or 2 years? And then how many people, when we've gone from transparent to non-transparent, how many people in the meantime, it's
in the name of transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
But also flip the script. If you're an agent listening, look at this. It may change for however long, but figure out your script of how you can be the best educator. And really, I don't know, you could make this your time to shine if you've come up with what you're going to say in your head, and you're not going, oh, sorry, sign this form. It's just a formality.
Don't go in apologizing.
Get
Yeah,
your
I mean,
brochures about yourself.
yeah.
Get your bio and everything about
And let them
yourself
read it before they sign.
Yeah.
on paper and in your open houses.
Yeah.
So that they can, our marketing department does it for all our agents for free.
Mhm.
And they get them into where they can slip it in their purse and take it with them and read about you later if you've got a packed open house. But
I
So
do that for
basically-
all my clients. I always give them
Yeah.
my buyers. Here's everything about myself and the company. My sellers. Here's everything about myself and the company, because I want to make sure this is a two-way street and we both like each
And
other.
if you're a newer agent, this is the time you really want to be with Chinowth Cohen or with a really, really reputable company, because you're going to have to say who you are. And if you don't have a lot of experience, who you are is the company that you're backed by at this point.
So one last thing I wanted to say on hot topics before we wrap up. So as the buyer, I'm sitting down with my agent, I'm signing this buyer brokerage agreement. And let's say I decide on 2%. Okay, I'm going to pay you 2%. But if we end up looking at a house that the sellers are paying 3%, I can
You
still
can't get it.
only accept 2%.
Right. Exactly.
So you also need to figure
You
out
can
your
negotiate
language.
down, but you cannot negotiate up.
Yes. So we need to figure out the language that buyers will feel comfortable that they know they can pay that percentage, but you're also not pre-negotiating what you're going to make.
It's another
and underselling.
negotiation. We've always said, we've said and taught in our classes that everyone thinks the contract is the only negotiation. And it hasn't been that way for years. You have 3 negotiations now. We're just going to add a 4th. You have a negotiations at the time that you do your contracts. You negotiate again on your TRRs, and then you do it. Sometimes you're negotiating on your walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So there are very possible 3 negotiations in every contract now. We're gonna add a 4th in there on top of leave the refrigerator, not leave the refrigerator. What percentage are you going to pay of the commissions? So take it off the table up front. That's what I'm saying to the sellers. Don't make that part of. Make it easy. Make it easy to sell your house. Your house is going to be what it's worth. Don't make it an appraisal issue. Get it up there up front when that sign's in the yard.
Well, I always tell people you want to make your house shine.
Mm-hmm.
You want the chrome to shine, you want the floor to shine, and
Mhm.
you want the commission to shine.
There you go.
I mean, you got to attract people by
Mhm.
bringing them in, and so this is just going to be another thing. I do think also for the listing agent, sometimes our job's going to be a little easier because the other side is going to be the one negotiating their compensation. We're having to negotiate that for them ahead of time, but if someone brings a contract in and wants to negotiate higher price, that's going to be, the seller's going to deal with that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to
It
be.
will be interesting,
But real estate always is interesting.
Yeah.
As
Always.
I'm not
always
afraid of
changing.
it. I think that's the thing too. Don't be
It's an
afraid of it. It's
opportunity.
an opportunity to learn, and the other thing too is we get to say now, this buyer broker is required.
Yeah.
I didn't use them because it
I
wasn't
didn't use them
required,
either.
but
Yeah.
now that it's required, I can actually sort of lock somebody in that used to I couldn't lock in. So I think in some ways this is going to make it better for us.
Well, and I think as an agent or as a buyer or seller or even investor, I think this is where it's going to be really important that you're listening to podcasts like this. If you're an agent, you're talking with your brokerages. Buyers and sellers, listen to podcasts, read articles.
Use the education department in your company.
Yes, be as educated
Yeah.
as you can, especially right now. Because the one thing I don't want to happen is buyers and sellers suffer during these months till they iron it all out. That's not fair either.
And they're going to get mixed information because we don't have the information. So
And it's
as we do
changing.
get it, companies that are not providing as much update as we do are going to be telling them things that are old. It's old information or not true
Right.
information.
And,
Yes.
and what we've done with our agents is done so much upfront. Here's where we're at now. Here's where we're at now. That I'm like, are we doing? Maybe that wasn't wise. Maybe it was better to wait till the dust settles in 3 days
I love
before it all
talking about
happens.
it.
But
Like I think
we've
that really
always
was
had
helpful.
keep all our agents up on the curve, on the front curve of what's getting ready to happen. So we've had so many.
I think it's
meetings
also
about
made
it.
all of us discuss and think about our value and why we're paid and how we're paid. I mean, I think it's actually become a very interesting conversation that we shouldn't be afraid to have. And I think what's really made us say is we deserve to make a living. We don't deserve this abuse.
Yeah.
Of some of this stuff. So I think in some ways it's really been a good thing to unite. What is that? The common enemy is the greatest thing. Like I think that's united us as realtors to say, wow, those of us that work hard and are honest and good and have integrity, we are a strong profession and we deserve to be here doing what we do, and that's that. So
Yeah,
it's been good.
It's going to be like every other industry. You find out who the best doctors are and you go to them. You find out who the best lawyers are and you go to them. You're going to find out who the best realtors are and you're going to go to them, because it's, commissions have always been negotiable, but so are which doctor you use. You can use, there's a wide range of doctors. There's a wide range of lawyers. Some charge $100 an hour. Some charge $600 an hour.
Some take insurance, some don't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of who fits into what you're doing. But when it comes to your biggest investment, I say go for the best. Go for the black and gold.
And that's a perfect way to wrap up this podcast. So, Sheryl, you have been such an inspiration to me. Thank you for being a friend and a mentor. I don't know how I would have made it in this business without you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
Sheryl,
Thank
I'm
you so
sorry I
much.
fell asleep on the phone the other night.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're going to say goodbye. So everybody will keep it getting real here, and you get real.
Get real. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Bye.